Morning folks, I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School. Back with our series on simple camping. In part 3 we're going to talk about connecting lines together, or connecting knots. We're going to talk about 3 fairly simple knots that are easy to remember and easy to tie that will enable us to connect shorter pieces of line together to make a longer piece of line. And I think all of these simple knots are important as we move into our simple camping series, so that we can better utilize the cordage we have for setting up different types of shelters and building camp implements to make things more comfortable around our camp. Stay with me, we'll get started. Alright, I've got 3 pieces of paracord here. 2 of them are green, 1 of them is brown. Hopefully you'll be able to see it a little bit better because they're contrasting colors. Now, if I want to connect 2 pieces of line, the most simplistic way to do that is with the fisherman's knot, and that is just to tie an overhand knot on one line, turn it around and take that other line and tie an overhand knot on that one, just like this. So I have one overhand knot tied to each line, and when I pull it together, it's a self-tightening knot. That's a very simple way to put a connection between 2 lines to make a longer piece of rope. Now, I wouldn't want to put a ton of pressure on something like this, but again, we're not talking about climbing. We're talking about simple things around camp, tarp lines, adjustment lines, things like that. Maybe a line for a laundry line, anything that you might need to use cordage for around your camp. You're not going to put a lot of stress on necessarily. The good thing about a knot like this is it comes undone very easily, because all you have to do is pull these 2 tails to pull it apart, and because they're half hitches, they break open fairly easily. Okay, so we could also use that same connection knot to make a loop of line if we needed to make a prusik loop or something like that. And the easy way to do that is just to take a turn in your line so that you have a tail going in opposite directions, and take one tail and tie an overhand knot to the line just like this, pull it through here and put another overhand knot on the other side just like this. And as long as your tails or your ears are sticking out in opposite directions here and here, you've tied that knot correctly. And that makes a real simple prusik loop. If you need a prusik loop or something that you can hang a backpack off of, that you just want to put a simple lark's head in or something like that, and you want a loop there to use, that makes an easy way to do that. And again, it's very simple to get that undone. You just pull the ears and pull it apart. Okay, the next line-to-line connection we're going to talk about is the Zeppelin Bend. I had a guy ask me about this knot not very long ago in another video. So the way we're going to tie this knot is we're going to take our first piece of cordage and we're just going to tie a bite in it so that our tail is coming down and out the bottom, just like this. So we got a simple bite in the line, just like that. We're going to take our second line and we're going to put a bite in that line, but we want to make sure that it is on the top. So the bite, we just turn the bite over. Basically, we just took a bite in the line, just like that, and we flipped it over like this. And we put those opposite each other. So we have a tail down and a tail up. Then we just take this tail and put it through this side. We take this tail and come up through the bottom side. So we have it going through in opposite directions on the 2 loops. And then we just dress the knot down and put pressure on it, just like that. Now, the difference with this one is it's a little bit more difficult to get it undone when it's been under load. But you can break it over, and that's what I like about it. It's got that simple break over, very much like you have with a bowline knot, to get it undone. But again, once you put it under stress, it's a little bit more difficult. So again, you're going to take one bite in the line, and your tail is down and away from you. You're going to take another bite in the line exactly the same way, and you're going to flip it over. So both of your tails are on the outside. One up, one down. One goes through this side, one comes around the bottom and goes through the other side, just like that. And then all you have to do is dress things up a little bit to tighten them down. I'm tying this in paracord, so it's a little bit more difficult to see. But as you tighten and dress that knot, it'll come together for you. And when you put it under strain, it'll dress right up. Again, that's called the Zeppelin Bend. Now, a third way we can connect two lines together is a simple loop-to-loop connection. And we can take our line and tie a loop in it. We can do that with an overhand knot if we want to. That's going to be the simplest down and dirty way to put a loop in the line, is with just an overhand knot. We could also use a bowline knot, which is going to be much easier to get undone in the end. And I've covered this knot in other videos. But you're going to want a loop on both ends of your line. So we've got a loop on this line. And then if we're going to use two bowline knots. Okay, so once you have your two loops, you're going to put one loop through the other one, just like this, and basically pull all the line on one side through to join the loops. And what you're going to have when you're done like this is you're going to have a reef knot or a square knot in the center, right here, and you'll have a loop-to-loop connection that forms that reef knot or that square knot. It's not too difficult to get this one undone, which is another good reason for using this knot if you don't want to cut your cordage. It's a good way to do that. So again, once we've tied two loops in our line, and it doesn't matter what our loop's made out of necessarily, we're not talking about putting it under a lot of strain, but if we want to get the loops undone easily, we can use a knot like these bowline knots. And we're going to put them through just like this, and we would just pull the entire thing through that loop to create that reef knot or square knot connection and give us a loop-to-loop connection of our two lines. Very, very simple. Now I'm going to show you one trick with this loop-to-loop connection that I think makes it very good for using around camp. Let's say I've got this line and I want to put some kind of a loop in this line because I'm going to wrap it around something, hang something off of it. I want to use it for cleaning game or anything like that. What I can do is I can just loosen this reef knot, take the other end of my line, let's say this is tied to a tree and it's hanging out of a tree, and this is my loop-to-loop connection. Now I can come up with this and I can shove this up through that reef knot just like this to get whatever size loop I want here. Tie a very simple stop knot. If I want to do that with a quick release, I can just put a quick release in it, or I can tie an overhand. But either way, once I pull this reef knot back down, that stop knot is going to keep it from slipping, and I'm going to have a loop of any diameter I want right here to use as well. And when I want to get that undone, if I've got that slippery hitch in there, I can just pop it out, pull that straight out of my connection. The connection comes apart very easily, and I'm back to having two pieces of cordage again. So that's a really good modification that you can use, and another reason I like that loop-to-loop connection that creates that reef knot or square knot, because you can utilize it to make loops of any size you want for utilizing around camp for different things, and I like that. You could also use a toggle up in there at the same time for that exactly the same way. You could take this loop-to-loop connection and just fold it over into a lark's head, take a toggle and shove it through there just like this, and on this loop just drop the toggle through their loop like this, and you have a loop-to-loop connection with the toggle. Again, very, very simple. Okay guys, well that's just three simple knots that you can use to connect two pieces of line together. Again, there's lots of advantages and disadvantages to each one of those knots. They all have different types of versatility. I hope I showed you a little bit of that today. And they have different applications within your camp, but they're all simple to tie and good knots to understand. I appreciate your views. I appreciate your support. I thank you for everything you do for our school, for our business, for our family, for all of our sponsors, instructors, affiliates, and friends, and I'll be back with another video as soon as I can. Thanks, guys.